Have you ever felt like you're just drifting through life? Days go by and nothing really changes. You keep putting things off, waiting for the right moment, hoping someone or something will come and fix everything. But let's be honest, no one's coming. If you don't take control of your life now, you'll keep living in circles. That's why this moment matters. This is your wake-up call. It's time to stop surviving and start building. And Stoic philosophy is the tool that's going to help you do it, with clarity, discipline, and peace of mind. In this video, you're going to learn how even your smallest habits are shaping who you're becoming. You'll finally understand why comparing yourself to others is destroying your peace. And you'll discover how to stop reacting impulsively and start responding with wisdom, even when everything around you feels out of control. Stoicism isn't about theory, it's about action. If you're tired of living on autopilot, this is your chance to rewrite the script. Drop a comment below, "I'm ready to build," so I know you're serious about this. And if this hits home, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and give this video a like. Share it with someone who needs this message today, because from this point forward, your life can start taking a whole new direction. Ready? Let's go. This is just the beginning. Have you ever noticed how the smallest daily decisions seem harmless until they become who you are? That, just today I'll skip the workout, the 5 more minutes, or the I'll deal with it later. All of it piles up like invisible bricks building your fate. Stoicism teaches that real transformation doesn't happen in grand gestures, but in silent repetition. You don't become someone new overnight. You become without even realizing it. And when you do, you're the reflection of the routine you allowed. Stoic philosophy shows that every choice, no matter how minor, shapes your character. If you choose to give in to distractions every time boredom hits, you're training your mind to run from discomfort, and that training becomes a pattern. Want a simple example? Choosing to read 10 pages of a good book every day, like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, can transform you more than a weekend retreat. Because transformation lives in repetition. Think about the person who constantly complains about their chaotic life, but won't even make their bed. What seems small today becomes a loud voice in your future. Stoicism invites you to ask, what are you silently cultivating? Unresolved anger? Recycled anxiety? Or a quiet self-discipline no one sees? The roots of your future are hidden in the habits you repeat. And it's not about perfection, it's about consistency. Going to bed early once doesn't change much, but doing it for 30 days changes your mood, your mind, your focus. You don't need to become a monk. You just need to start choosing with more presence. Set an alarm to read. Take 15 minutes to walk in silence. Simple actions done consistently rebuild who you are, one habit at a time. And when you feel like giving up, remember, you're not starting from zero. You're starting from where you left off. That changes everything. Stoicism teaches that no matter how far you've walked the wrong path, you can always change direction. All it takes is the decision to interrupt the cycle and start building something intentional. Your routine is sculpting you. The real question is, what is it sculpting? And if every habit you're ignoring today is silently becoming your biggest enemy tomorrow, then maybe the next step is not to compare anymore, but to understand why you're comparing in the first place. And that's where Stoic philosophy gets even deeper. Have you noticed how silent comparison drains your energy without you even realizing it? You open Instagram, and suddenly your achievement feels tiny next to someone else's perfect life. But Stoic philosophy teaches that the only valid standard for your growth is yourself. Why? Because comparing your story to someone else's, who has different wounds, privileges, and timing, is like trying to run a marathon in someone else's shoes. It hurts, it slows you down, it discourages. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul remains unshaken when it turns inward." That's the key. Your value can't be measured in likes, applause, or external milestones. If today you got out of bed with more strength than yesterday, that's a win. If you faced an internal storm in silence and didn't break, that's growth. This kind of invisible progress is what builds a solid life. But you'll only see it if you stop comparing. Comparison has a hidden poison. It makes you forget everything you've already overcome. What used to be hard is now routine. That pain that once broke you, you now remember without tears. But if you keep looking sideways, you forget to look back and realize how far you've come. Stoic philosophy reminds us daily, what others are doing is irrelevant if you haven't even recognized who you're becoming. Want a simple way to fight comparison? Grab a notebook and write down 3 small wins from the last 7 days. It could be woke up without snoozing, handled a problem calmly, or said no to something that drains me. This becomes an anchor for your perception. It brings you back to your reality. Your mind needs proof that you're progressing. If you don't give it proof, it will look outside, and what you see out there is rarely the full truth. Seneca said, "It doesn't matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop." The journey isn't about speed. It's about being honest with yourself. Comparing only creates anxiety and pushes you into a race no one asked you to join. You don't need to get where someone else is. You just need to go where you haven't been yet. And that's as freeing as it is uncomfortable. And maybe, just maybe, the reason you compare so much is tied to the way you emotionally react to things. Ever noticed how your emotions can lie to you about what's real? Let's talk about that next. Emotion hits like a wave, fast, intense, unexpected. But you don't have to dive into it. Stoicism teaches that between what we feel and what we do, there's a space. And in that space lives your power. Most people treat every emotion like a command. Feel anger, lash out. Feel fear, freeze. Feel guilt, sabotage yourself. But that's living on autopilot. Real freedom begins when you realize you can choose your response. And even more, you can choose not to respond at all. Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them." In other words, the problem isn't anger, it's what you decide to do with it. Someone provokes you. Okay, but who said you have to respond in the same tone? You can pause, breathe, and choose. That's emotional control. That's mind mastery. You become the inner leader, not a puppet of your circumstances. The outside world doesn't have to dictate your behavior. Want a practical example? Imagine you're in traffic. Someone cuts you off, honks, and yells at you. Your automatic reaction might be to yell back. But what if you took a deep breath, rolled down your window, turned up the music, and kept driving? Not because you're weak, but because you refuse to let a stranger ruin your peace. That simple choice builds mental strength. With every non-reaction, you're training your resilience. Of course, this doesn't mean you bottle everything up. It's not about repression. It's about transformation. When you choose to respond with wisdom, you're cleaning your emotional space. You don't carry resentment, you don't waste energy. That's maturity. It's choosing peace even when chaos knocks at your door. The Stoics weren't passive. They were strategic. They knew those who fight everything lose themselves. You can apply this at work, in your relationships, during family arguments. Before reacting, ask yourself, will this strengthen me or drain me? That single question changes the entire tone of a conversation, because when you learn to pause before reacting, you take the wheel of your life, and that pause can save you from 1,000 regrets. Now tell me, how many times have you suffered over something that never even happened? Sleepless nights, fake scenarios, imagined arguments. Yeah, maybe the real problem isn't out there. Maybe it's in what your mind keeps rehearsing in secret. You know that tension that creeps in even before anything goes wrong. That feeling that something bad is coming, even when everything seems fine. That has a name: anticipated suffering. And Stoic philosophy teaches it's one of the greatest thieves of your energy. The mind starts creating dozens of versions of a future that hasn't even happened, and you suffer through all of them. Your body reacts, your heart races, your breathing tightens, but in the end, nothing actually happened except in your imagination. Anxiety wears the mask of preparation. You think you're being cautious, getting ready for the worst, but what you're really doing is feeding invisible monsters. And the cruelest part? Most of what you fear never even comes true. Marcus Aurelius said, "Life is what happens while you're busy fearing things that may never occur." Every thought you replay without questioning becomes a dirty lens through which you see the world. And that lens must be cleaned. Want to train your mind? Every time a worry shows up, ask yourself, is this happening now? If the answer is no, come back to the present. Take a deep breath. feel the ground under your feet. Look around. The now is rarely as bad as your mind projects. You can even use a visual anchor, like a small object on your desk, to bring yourself back. Your brain needs practice, and presence is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Seneca, another great Stoic, said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And he wasn't exaggerating. Think of all the arguments you've rehearsed in your head, all the terrible outcomes you've assumed, all the chances you never took because you feared failure. Anticipation steals courage. And worst of all, it doesn't protect you, it just paralyzes you. Imagine pain doesn't prepare you, it just wears you down. Stoic practice invites us to observe thoughts like clouds in the sky. You don't have to grab every cloud, you can let them pass. Observe, recognize, release. That's emotional intelligence. It's realizing that not every thought is true, and not every feeling deserves to be fed. You are not what you feel. You are what you choose to do with what you feel. And that changes everything. And what if I told you that it's not too late? That despite the imaginary pain, the emotional delays, and all the mental clutter, you still have time to start over? Because that's exactly what we're about to explore now. Some people look in the mirror and think, "It's too late. I should have started earlier." But let me share a truth that Stoic philosophy has carried for centuries. The best time to change is always now. Not when you have more money. Not when the world is finally calm. Not when your past is forgotten. It's today. And as cliché as that sounds, now is the only power you really have. Epictetus started with nothing. He was a slave, no status. But he had one thing no one could take from him: the decision to transform from within. The mind loves to replay limiting stories. "I wasn't born for this. I'm too old. I don't have the talent." But what if all of that is just a dressed-up excuse to avoid the discomfort of growth? Stoicism teaches that wisdom doesn't come from age. It comes from attitude. And if you don't learn to rewrite your internal narrative, you become a prisoner of your own voice. You can learn, you can grow, but only if you're willing to let go of who you've been, to become who you haven't met yet. Need a practical example? Let's say you've always been afraid of public speaking. That doesn't mean you were born without it. It just means you never practiced. What if you started reading out loud 5 minutes a day? What if you studied Stoic-based communication, clarity, calm presence, detachment from praise or judgment? That would build mental strength, not just for speeches, but for life. Because real growth is about surpassing yourself, not others. Learning something new doesn't require genius. It requires presence, humility, and consistency. Want to develop your emotional intelligence? Start by studying Seneca. Want to build self-discipline? Read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, like it was written just for you. Ancient wisdom has this power. It crosses centuries and still lights a fire inside a restless mind. And if you thought it was too late, that's just the old voice of stagnation trying to stay in control. When you break that idea of "it's too late," new paths appear, and everything starts to shift. Even the hardest roads become accessible to those who take the first step, even if it's small. Life doesn't demand speed, it demands direction. And Stoicism is the map that reminds you, yes, you can start now. All it takes is one honest decision. And even if things feel messy, even if you're caught in your own highs and lows, there's something even more important than external results, because what truly remains is your essence. And that's exactly what we'll talk about next. Some days everything feels aligned. Your mind is clear, your body feels light, life seems to flow. And the next day, one bad message, one unexpected thought, one inner storm, and suddenly everything collapses. But Stoicism teaches something powerful. You are not what happens to you. You are what you choose to hold on to when everything shifts. Your essence doesn't shake just because the world does. It stays. Marcus Aurelius said that a stone remains a stone whether it's on a mountain or underwater. The same goes for you. Just because you've fallen doesn't mean you've lost your strength. Just because you feel lost today doesn't mean your wisdom is gone. Life moves in cycles, seasons, and mistaking a temporary storm for your identity is a trap. The ups and downs are part of the path, not who you are. If you're in a low moment now, don't rush to label yourself broken. Use this phase as a mirror. Ask, what is this moment trying to teach me? Sometimes the fall reveals hidden pride. Sometimes the silence uncovers the anxiety you've disguised as ambition. These moments are teachers, and those who dare to face them evolve faster than those who fake balance all the time. But even in your highest moments, be careful. Ego loves to whisper that you're untouchable when things go well, but Stoic philosophy teaches you to stay calm even under positive pressure. That takes emotional intelligence. It's remembering that your worth doesn't rise with applause or fall with criticism. Your center is in the values you hold, not in the noise around you. One practical way to anchor your essence is to create personal rituals. Write down 3 non-negotiable principles and read them every morning. Meditate for 5 minutes before bed. Practice strategic silence when things get emotionally noisy. Small habits that reconnect you to your truth, not to your passing moods. That's mind mastery. That's ancient wisdom in motion. And if you can stay grounded even when the world spins, you'll be ready for something even harder, dealing with other people's reactions. Because no matter how much you grow, someone will always try to knock you off center, and that's where we're going next. Most people live as if their emotions are controlled by remote, and that remote is in someone else's hands. I feel this way because of him. She made me mad and they ruined my day. But the Stoics teach that no one has that kind of power unless you hand it over. The way you react is your choice. Harsh? Maybe, but also freeing, because if you own your reactions, then no one else can hijack your peace. Seneca said that a wise person is not disturbed by insults. That doesn't mean they feel nothing. It means they choose what to do with what they feel. That's the secret of emotional control. Not numbing emotions, but channeling them. You can use anger to create justice, or to burn bridges. You can use fear as a warning, or as a cage. It all depends on who's driving when the feeling shows up. Need a real-world example? Imagine someone disrespects you at work and in front of others. Your first impulse might be to snap back. But what if you took a breath, looked them in the eye and said, "If you'd like to speak respectfully, I'm here." That changes everything. That flips the power dynamic. Because now you're the one steering the moment. That's the kind of strength that doesn't shout, but can't be ignored. Being strategically calm isn't being passive. It's being wise. It's knowing that not every fight is worth the emotional cost, that not everything deserves a reaction, that sometimes silence teaches more than 1,000 words. This is Stoic philosophy in action, deciding where to place your energy. And when you learn to do that, you begin protecting something sacred, your inner peace. A practical method for this: use the pause and question technique. Before reacting, ask, will this matter in a week? Is this really about me, or just someone else's wounded ego? That simple moment of reflection saves you from bad choices, harsh words, and unnecessary regrets. Mastering your mind is a trainable skill, and those who train win. They win time, health, and even the respect of those who once tried to provoke them. And it's usually when you start growing from the inside that the world begins reacting to it. People who drifted away show up again. Those who used to mock now get louder. But judgment from others, well, that says far more about them than it ever says about you. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next. Every time you decide to grow, someone's going to get uncomfortable. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because your progress highlights their own stagnation. Judgment shows up disguised as sarcasm, fake concern, or even distance. But it doesn't define your worth. Stoicism teaches that every reaction says more about the other person than it does about you. The secret is to keep going even when people doubt you, because consistency is what eventually silences contempt. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is foolish to worry about the opinion of those who don't even know what it means to live with virtue." So ask yourself, why give weight to the judgment of someone who isn't even walking the same path as you? The problem is, we often crave approval. We want others to understand, to say, "Now I respect you." But that craving, it's a trap set by the ego. And the ego loves to keep you chasing validation. The Stoic path is different. Walk firmly, even when no one gets it. Need a practical example? Let's say you decide to quit drinking, change your diet, start meditating. Some people will support you, but many will mock you. Say you've changed, you're boring, you're too serious. That's not about you. That's about the discomfort your discipline causes in their laziness. Your transformation breaks the silent agreement of collective mediocrity. That's why it bothers them. That's why it pushes them away. Stoic philosophy teaches you not to live reactively to others' expectations. Live by principles, not by applause. Strengthen your discipline. Protect your essence. Stay true. Because constancy outlasts any criticism. Eventually, even the ones who doubted you will notice something changed. And by that time, you won't even need their approval, because you'll have something far more powerful. Respect for yourself. Want to shield yourself even further? Train your perception. When someone criticizes you, instead of responding right away, ask, is this true? Does this come from someone I admire? Does this help me grow? If the answer is no, smile internally and move on. That's real mental strength. That's the level of freedom few people reach, because you're no longer living for applause, but anchored in your own truth. And maybe that's exactly what's missing in most lives today. To stop molding yourself just to be liked and start building something solid from the inside out. And now that you've walked through each one of these principles, it's time to open this journey with an introduction that grips from the very first second. Now that you've made it this far, the question is simple. What are you going to do with all of this? Will you just reflect, or will you apply it? Because knowledge that doesn't turn into action becomes a burden. Stoic philosophy doesn't want you to become a scholar of calm. It wants you to become its living example. So pause for a second and ask yourself, what was the part of this video that hit you the hardest? What habit can you start changing today? What emotion do you need to start observing more consciously? If you felt called to something here, drop a comment below. Starting today, I build, just so I know you're ready to stop living on autopilot and start taking control of your life. This isn't about perfection. It's about presence, decision, and consistency. It's about no longer letting ego, anger, comparison, or doubt set your pace. Now you've got a new lens, a new map, and that alone already puts you ahead of so many people still stuck in survival mode. And if you want to keep diving deeper into this path of self-mastery, mental strength, and practical wisdom, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications, because here, every week, there's content for those who truly want to grow. Share this video with someone who needs to hear these truths. And remember, your life changes the moment you change the way you see it, and you've already started.